I pledge allegiance
allegiance to the flag
of the
of the United
States
States
of
of America and to the republic
for
for
which
which
it
it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty and
liberty
justice for all.
and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Can I have roll call, please?
Ken Nelson,
Here.
Linda DeGray.
She's here. I see her.
You know,
She's muted.
Sorry, I
Charles
unmuted
Black.
myself.
Charlie, are you there?
Yeah, he's here somewhere.
Yeah,
He's muted also.
Okay, Virginia Higley,
Here.
Francis Alimo,
Here.
John Petronella,
Here.
Vinnie Grillo.
You're
He's
muted, Vinny.
Just snuck in.
Here.
And Richard Suzak is here.
Okay. Can I get a motion to go into executive session? Vinny, I just sent you the link to get into executive session. You have to log out of this meeting and then log into that one. When executive session's over, you'll log back into this meeting.
That was the problem. I actually logged into that one and I was waiting for the host and that's what confused me. So I have that link. So
Okay.
log out of this, log into that, and then we'll get back into it.
All right.
And then-
Motion?
So moved.
Second? Motion's made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none?
Aye.
Okay, everybody who's out there, just you can sit tight or you can log back in about 10 minutes. We'll be back. Thank you. We just came out of executive session. In attendance was Ken Nelson, Jim, the town attorney, Charles Ladd, Linda DeGray, Frank Limo, Rich Suzak, John Petronella, Vinnie Grillo, Mark, the town attorney, Serrato, and Lori Witten. No votes or decisions were made in executive session, so we will continue with our regular meeting. So next on the agenda, approval of minutes, September 24th, 2020.
Didn't we already do that?
Nope.
No. I move to approve the minutes of September 24th, 2020.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any comments, concerns, or corrections? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed?
Meeting
Seeing none, it's unanimous. Next, public participation. Is there anybody out there that would like to speak about a matter that is not on the agenda or related to anything on the agenda at this time? If so, please speak up. Seeing none, moving on. Bond releases. Do we have any bond releases tonight?
No, sir.
No, sir. Okay, continued public hearings. Do we have any continued public hearings going? I don't see any.
Not continued. Nope.
Nope. Okay, moving on. New public hearings. Public hearing number 2982, 10 Duff Drive.
I'll take roll call.
Yeah.
Ken Nelson,
Here?
Linda DeGray,
Here.
Charles Ladd.
Huh.
Where is he?
I don't see him.
He didn't get back
Uh-oh.
on.
All right. Virginia Higley,
Here.
Francis Alamo,
Here.
John Petronella,
Here,
Vinnie Grillo,
Here,
and Richard Suzak is here. And I guess I can read the,
Hold on one sec, Rich. I'm sorry to interrupt you. At this point, I'd like to seat both alternates, John Petronella and Vinnie Grillo, for the remainder of the meeting for the absent commissioners. Go ahead, Rich. I'm sorry.
well, I guess public hearing 2982 is 10 Duff Drive, application of owner and applicant Brian Ambacher for an expansion of a non-conforming building under section 3.40.1D by constructing a 12 by 22 garage located in a front yard setback at the property located at 10 Duff Drive, map 86, lot 9, R33 zone.
Okay, Brian, tell us a little bit about what you want to do.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Yeah, basically, my property now has a one-car garage. It's a Star Colonial one-car garage, and I want to add a second bay, basically identical in size and shape to the existing one-car garage. And apparently, the front setback is not in compliance any longer with zoning.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioners, questions, comments, concerns?
I have one question. So basically, it's just going to be a one-story single, just a couple of walls and a roof, and basically just an extension of your the existing garage as it appears now?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It'll be, 12 feet wide with a garage door, but basically, pretty much identical in shape to the existing one.
Mm-hmm. So you'd be expanding your driveway, and because I noticed you're up on a little slope, so that, you'd have to be regrading some of that, area around it, and you'll maintain all the grading on your own property?
Yeah, so the driveway's already wide enough. I don't have to do the driveway, and where the garages go is just about perfectly flat. So there's not really any grading to any degree.
Okay. That's all the
So-
questions I had.
Question for staff?
Commissioner Alimo.
Yes, through Chair to Lori. So the house and this whole property has become unconforming by way of a zone change? Because it looks like the whole house is closer to the front yard than the garage is gonna be. So why is it non-conforming?
So because it's an R33 zone and it's only 22,000 square feet. So we have a regulation in the zoning regulations that allows for a special permit to be granted for these non-conforming structures or non-conforming additions when the actual parcel layout is not up to date with the current zoning.
Okay, so basically we have an older development and we blanketed over new zoning regulations over it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? And to the town staff, this doesn't encroach any on lot coverage or any other setbacks other than the front yard by what I'm looking at. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So is this entire street this same way?
Yes.
So this is just like Burnham, which we heard probably 6 months ago.
Yes.
So
Sorry, I don't have my,
my point is to bring it up to the commission. This is something we really need to address because we're costing these people time and money for something that has nothing to do with them, and it's the entire street. And it's
I
really
think
not right.
It's the entire neighborhood. When you look at, the
Yep.
the expense of, that entire development is like that. And I think that, that's one of the things I think that we should be tackling on a rewriting of our regulations, is that we don't cause all this distress to people for something that they should have an opportunity to do. So
That's crazy.
Absolutely.
in that
I
sense,
agree.
I think that we've been down this path a number of times, and we've always reiterated it, that wait till we do our regulations over and we will take care of it this time, for sure.
So Laura, you hear the consensus of the commission that if we could make this kind of a priority on updating our regulations to take, even if it's like a blanket statement that if, 90% of the neighborhood meets blah, 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 then, the Planning and Zoning Commission can administratively approve something like this so it can move the project forward.
right.
Something along those lines.
Yeah, I would just, in the long run, just recommend that we go back to the zoning that it was when it was created and just follow
Thank
that.
you.
Which is
So
first
all
thing I
right.
thought of when I saw this. I was like,
All
that's
right.
crazy.
it'll be on our next agenda, right?
Well, we'll, maybe. I
Okay.
can neither confirm nor deny that.
All right.
Well,
Anything
just
else?
look,
from
when you
the-
look at the drawing, and like I said, the whole property's out of not conforming. The house
Yeah,
is closer.
exactly.
That-
Yeah, the
that's
house is even
ridiculous.
closer to the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Anything else from the commission before I open it to the public?
Mm-mm.
Brian, is there anything I'm sorry, who was
I'm
talking?
sorry, Linda, just a quick question, maybe Charlie Ladd, if he's on the call. What
Yeah.
was the idea behind changing the front yard setback to 40 feet? We have to have some kind of history as to why we did that. I don't know why. Do you remember, Charlie?
I don't think Charlie's on. Is he?
Yeah, he's
It
here.
is
Yeah.
on.
Oh,
It's
okay.
on.
I don't really remember, other than the fact that because of the, on the lakes, the front is actually the waterfront, so that would be a rear zone, and that would be 40 feet.
Well, we'll have to investigate the reason behind it. So,
Okay.
Staff will do that.
All right, thanks, Lori. Brian, is there anything you'd like to add before I open it to the public?
No, but it was good to hear your conversation, because I could not understand why on earth this made sense for me to get a special use permit. So
It doesn't.
I'm glad, yeah, okay.
Yep,
All
all
right.
righty. At this time, I'd like to open up public hearing 2982 to the public. Is there anybody who would like to speak in favor or against this application for the first time? If you would like to speak, please just speak up. Going for the second time. 10 Duff Drive, public hearing 2982, going for the third time, in favor or against, please speak up. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing if that's how the commission would like to proceed.
So moved.
Mhm.
Motion's made. Is there a
Second.
motion's made and seconded. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
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 At this time, how would you like to proceed? I'll entertain a motion if you'd like.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the resolution for public hearing 2982 as prepared by the planning department staff dated October 22nd, with the 11 conditions that are indicated in their statement.
Thanks, Rich. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Seeing none. Congratulations, Brian. You're all set.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a
All
good
right,
evening.
thank
Welcome.
you.
Good night.
Yep, bye.
Moving on, public hearing 2985, 95 Raffia Road. Anyone here for the applicant?
Yes,
start-
Alexander,
Okay, Ken Nelson,
Here?
Linda DeGray,
There.
Charles Ladd,
Here.
Virginia Higley,
Here.
Francis Alamo,
Here.
John Petronella,
Here.
Vinnie Grillo,
Here.
and Richard Suzak is here. And I'll just read a quick excerpt of, public hearing 2985, 95 Raffia Road. Application of owner and applicant George Raffia and Sons Incorporated for expansion of a non-conforming use under section 33.40.1D by installing a non-conforming sign at property located at 95 Raffia Road in a BL zone, map 67, lot 424.
Is there anyone here for the applicant? If so, speak up.
yep, I'm here. My name is Alexandra Thompson.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Tell us a little bit about what you'd like to do.
Sure, as you know, the plaza was built back in the 1950s, back before all these regulations were in place. So most of the units in the plaza have their own sign. So we're just looking to add a sign for the unit for the barber shop.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions or concerns?
Mm-mm.
The only question I have is, will this put them over the amount of signage they're allowed on that property, Lori?
We did not do the final calculations, but that we will make sure that that's not the case.
Okay.
So this was just an application to allow the roof sign as it was. So,
Okay, but you still follow the same standards?
of course.
Okay. All right, commissioners, anything else before I open it to the public?
Is this similar to like the one we just heard? We have a structure that's been there since the 50s. It was
Yes.
conforming then, and then we make it non-conforming?
It's different
the-
sign regulations.
No,
Different sign.
this is more an issue of, as was just stated, that this plaza was put in the 1950s. We didn't have any sign regulations that didn't allow the roof signs. We do now. So it's just basically a non-conforming plaza as far as the roof signs. And they're just trying to make the appearance look consistent. So rather than have signs all over the place, they wanted to just keep it consistent as to the 1950s design.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Anyone else before I open it to the public? Seeing none, is there anybody out there that would like to speak in favor or against public hearing 2985, 95 Raffia Road? If so, please just speak up. Going for the second time? And going for the third time, public hearing 2985, 95 Raffia Road for an application for a non-conforming sign. Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing if that's how you want to proceed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made by Rich and seconded by Linda. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Seeing none. How would you like to proceed?
Again, Mr. Chair, I move for the approval of the resolution for public hearing 2985 dated October, well, this one's dated October 15th. Prepared by the planning department with 11 conditions indicated, no site-specific conditions.
Is there a second?
Second,
Second,
Motion's made and seconded by Commissioner Limo. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Seeing none, it's unanimous. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much.
Have a great
Night.
night.
thank
You
you.
too. Bye-bye now.
Good night.
Moving on, public hearing 2986, application. Roll call, please.
Ken Nelson,
Here.
Linda DeGray,
here,
Charles Ladd,
Here.
Virginia Higley,
Here.
Frank Alamo.
Is he
He's
here?
muted,
He's
but he's
muted.
here.
Okay, John
Muted, I'm
Petronella.
here. Hello. Thank
John
you.
Petronella,
Here.
Vinnie Grillo,
Here,
and Richard Suzak is here.
Okay, is there anyone here for the applicant?
And I can read a little description.
Yep.
Public hearing 2986, application of Michael Bonanen Esquire, representing applicant 359 Hazard Avenue LLC for a text amendment, amending section 8.70 to reduce the minimum lot size from 1 acre to 0.5 acres and to add language to enable the rehabilitation and/or adaptive reuse of existing buildings located within the Hazardville Design District and establish specific criteria to accomplish same.
Okay, is there anyone here for the applicant?
Yes, hello, good evening.
How are you? Introduce
I'm-
your name,
I'm
please.
doing, hi, my name is Michael Bonanno.
And is there anybody with you this evening?
Yes, Mr. Commissioner, I've got with me the owner, Dr. Constantino, as well as our architect, Arthur Hall.
Okay, thank you. Tell us a little bit about what you'd like to do.
Okay, thank you. So again, my name is Michael Bonanno. I'm an attorney at Tavano, McCune, and Bonanno here in Glastonbury, Connecticut. I represent the applicant, 359 Hazard Avenue LLC. And as I told you on the phone with us this evening is my client, Dr. Constantino, as well as Art Hall, who can jump in and ask questions. You may recall that we were before you in June with a similar application with regard to a request to change the zoning text regarding section 8.70. Pertains to Hazardville design districts. Crafted the and to promote a variety of use residential, commercial that complement and enhance historical. What we're asking for is to specifically those regulations ability to enable rehabilitation and adaptive of vacant, deteriorated, or underutilized buildings and their sites. So we're looking to adapt this historic property, I think, because I've been before you before, I can spare you some of the background and details, unless, of course, you would like them. Of course, this is the site, 359 Hazard Ave, of the old Hazardville Grammar School, built in 1864. A beautiful masonry building that has been vacant for some time, and we're looking to be able to reuse the property in some meaningful way. In order to do that, we have to amend your regulations. The minimum lot size is proposed to be reduced from 1 acre to a half of an acre. We also have added some lot and bulk requirements, such as minimum floor area and others that we've included in there. Some changes from our last application, I just want to point out. We've listened to, of course, what the commission said. We have been working closely with staff over a year, but even more closely, we've communicated since our last application, and we've revised the application to something which we hope you will find acceptable and something that's going to be a benefit to the town. We eliminated the proposed change to the language with regard to home occupations. So if you recall, there was a request initially at our last application. It caused some confusion. We don't need any changes to that, so we've eliminated that. One of the big changes that we've made is a reduction in the proposed amount of units. We had proposed 12 units per this half-acre parcel, or I should say to the regulation change, and we have reduced that down to 10. I want to note that our specific application actually is for 9 two-bedroom units. So if it was the commission's desire, we could concede that we would drop that down to 9. As it currently stands, it's 10. We also eliminated some discretionary language, which we had included the last time, which pertained to characteristics that the commission could take into consideration, as well as about landscaping. We've eliminated those entirely. Staff has added some language with regard to buffers, as well as landscaping provisions. We are fine with all of the suggested or proposed changes from staff. There's a little clarification on some of the language that Lori and I spoke about, which we can talk about in a moment. Other concerns that were voiced at the last meeting that we have addressed, because we've reduced the number of units in our application to 9, we have more parking available. We have 27 parking spaces available. We have proposed a requirement of 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit. With our application for the zone text change of 10, that's our proposal, 10 units, that would be 20 spaces, leaving 7 free. And as I mentioned, our actual application or proposal for this site would be for 9 units, which would be 18 parking spaces, leaving 9 spaces open. So that's a major reduction. We also eliminated the possibility of having 2-bedroom units or dwelling units in the basement. We weren't sure if we could get those, combined with some concerns about storage that would be available for each unit. The applicant has decided to eliminate the possibility of having any units in the basement, and instead we'll have about 2,000, little shy of 2,000 square feet that would be available for storage for the units on the 1st and 2nd floor. As I mentioned, our specific application would be for 9 2-bedroom units, proposing, I think it's 4 on the 1st floor, 5 on the 2nd, and once again, storage in the entire basement. There would also be a medical office. We have, by eliminating some of the units, yet being stuck with the physical layout of the masonry walls that we can't move easily, we increased the office space to about 900 square feet. And one of the other big changes is with regard to that office, Dr. Constantino agreed that he would only use these offices for telemedicine. So we're not even going to have people from the public or patients coming and using those parking spaces. I want to remind the commission that since this was the old Hazardville Grammar School, we've got plenty parking in the back, but we have a park literally across the street. So any of the residents of the proposed apartment or multifamily complex could use that as well. So those are some of the changes from our last application. So therefore in front of you, and we can go through the actual text changes that we've proposed, and staff did a fantastic job going through with their comments. But it really leaves us with 2 major requests, which is dropping the proposed size of the property from 1 acre down to 1/2 of an acre. And then we have density and unit size. First, we were trying to zone in on, no pun intended, trying to zone in on how many properties this would affect, this change. And so as part of our application, I included a narrative addendum where we looked in this district, this Hazardville Design Overlay District, to see how many parcels fall within this range of between 1/2 of an acre and a full acre that are commercial, that could be rehabilitated, reused and rehabilitated in such a situation as this. And it came down to only about 6 properties. Of those properties, besides our unit, our location, 359, the other parcels are existing buildings that the structures themselves used to be residential structures. They're old houses that have been converted for commercial use. So presumably if they were to be adapted and reused to go back to multifamily or residential use, they would maintain the same character and structure and layout that they would have. So really, this parcel is the historic building that needs to be able to be adapted and reused for some other meaningful purpose. Staff did bring up another property address, 317 Hazard Ave, which the old Hazardville Institute. I just want to mention that the reason why I didn't include that in our analysis is because that parcel is owned by the town, therefore exempt from any zoning regulations, and it's only on a parcel that's the size of 0.11 acres. So that wasn't part of our analysis. We're talking about specific properties that have great historical value, but we can't use them unless we're able to adapt to the current usage. And we can't do that in the current, the way that the regulations are drafted. With regard to the density, we are proposing again 10 dwelling units per half of an acre. Again, with the caveat that we could drop that down to 9 if that was the commission's preference. These are isolated properties that would have this density. So once again, applicants would be coming before you by way of a special permit. So this is not just unilaterally opening up the floodgates for anybody who has a property that fits this scenario. They would of course still have and that would be your prerogative, your discretion. It's an adaptive reuse of an old school. As I said, and as we've talked about before, these walls, these masonry walls, we can't change them. We do not want to destroy any part of the building that's got historical character and significance in the town. And so that's really not a practical option, but we're stuck with the physical layout, and therefore the units that we choose and how we're configuring them, we don't have a lot of wiggle room. We're talking about units that are on average just about 850 square feet per unit. You've got plenty of parking, the park across the street. And I want to mention that Bigelow Commons, just as an example, which was also an adaptive reuse for multifamily. The density, I believe, is around 29 dwelling units per acre. And if you break that down, it's about 14 units per half acre, which is less than what we're asking for here. With regard to the unit sizes, once again, we are in our application proposing 9 two-bedroom units, approximately average about 8 square feet. Staff has gone through and laid out for you the minimum floor areas for other similar type properties, and we are most akin to assisted living. But once again, we're stuck with the physical layout with the masonry walls. Because our particular application would be for 2-bedroom units, we do have flexibility if it was the commission's prerogative to increase the square footage requirements for studio and 1-bedroom units. The 2-bedroom units, again, we're stuck. We've asked for 800 square feet as a minimum, and I think we would be stuck with that. As we stated last time, many historic buildings across the state have been readapted or reused and adapted in similar conditions. They're usually stuck on smaller size parcels and in the centers of town, I should say. And there are other similar properties to this in Enfield as well. We've talked about St. Adalbert's development, whereby the units are about 650 square foot in size. So left with the current regulations, the client's really unable to make any productive or meaningful use of it. We obviously can't, we're not going to run a school, the daycare, et cetera. That it's not from a practical standpoint going to be a profitable business. And we're stuck with the layout, leaving us with little to no alternatives. Unless, I don't know if you have any comments, or Dr. Constantino or Lori, I know we've talked about some of the specific requirements that we have in here, as well as the language of our suggested zone text change. We could talk about that. Before I sign off, I would just respectfully ask that if the commission does have any other questions, concerns, or maybe modifications, that we continue that the commission would vote to continue the public hearing instead of close it. But that's about all I have. Just taking lead from you, Mr. Commissioner. I can go through that actual language of the zone text change if
Because I have a couple of questions. In terms of, I'm looking at this and, I think that, I guess I don't have a problem with the presentation that I see here right now. I think it makes perfect sense and it's something that needs to be done and that we need to address. But I guess what I don't want to do is, you mentioned the fact of other properties. Obviously what we don't want to do is create a scenario where, somebody all of a sudden says, geez, if I put on, a 3-story addition, or if I do this, then I can get, 5 additional units or 10 additional units on this property. And I'm looking at the density and realistically, when I look at, 10 units per half acre, that's 20 units per acre. So for every 1/10 of an acre that I have, I can put 2 units up there. And I guess, what I would like to do is, like you said, I don't mind changing the regulations to half an acre and saying that, that half an acre can take 9 units. But I think that what we need to do is sort of limit, the maximum number of units between, for an entire acre probably should not be much more than, 10 or 12, so that, if the adaptive reuse, and I don't think that we would say that, it's 10 units per acre. What we would say is that the minimum lot size is 0.5 acres, but not more than, 10 units for a 1 acre site, from 0.5 to 1 acre, not more than 10 units. So that, again, we can sort of limit the fact that, some of these other houses that are there, what we don't want to do is all of a sudden turn them into boarding houses either. Basically we want to keep that residential character that's there in play. And so that we're not necessarily making host scale changes, but we're allowing some leeway. But what we don't want to do is go off the deep end and try to, make it too flexible, but, make it flexible enough, but something that's consistent with our other regulations. You mentioned, the Thompsonville, development there. And, obviously, that's a 4-story building or whatever. So that, and they have plenty of parking and what we don't want to do, and you have parking that's already established, but we don't want to have, all these host scale large parking lots being developed, to support, this residential, development or whatever we're calling a plan design special permit development system. So, in that vein, I think that, I'm all for what you're showing, but I think that what we need to do is we need to sort of rein it in just a little bit so that, it's not more than maybe, 10 units or 12 units for a 1 acre site, but you can allow, 9 units on a half an acre type of thing. And I don't even know if your entire site is more than a half an acre or is it less than a half an acre or exactly. Excuse me?
It's 0.6 acres.
Yeah, 0.6. So all of a sudden, if we say, 10 units for a half an acre, so does that mean that, all of a sudden you get, 12 units because it's 0.6? So I think that what we need to do is sort of, limit that a little bit. Okay. But, I think that those are a couple. I got some more, but I see Laurie's raising her hand.
Yeah, I just figured I'd like to, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'd like to comment on this. So this is written very specifically for existing historic buildings. So, and I'm reading through this and I'm thinking, okay, so it says the purpose is design standards contained herein, blah, 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 and enable the rehabilitation and or adaptive reuse of vacant, deteriorated, or underutilized commercial historic buildings and their sites. And I think if we just clarify that it's the adaptive reuse of existing.
With no additions,
Right, no additions.
Okay, well, I think that we should clarify that because I don't specifically, again, if you don't say it's not, if it's not allowed, then it is allowed. So theoretically, I can have an existing building that I want to put an addition on and still have an existing building. So I think that, specifically, I think that when we were looking at, the Enfield the Thompsonville area, it says specifically that, you can't, add additions or,
Yeah.
have to use the adaptive reuse of just that footprint that exists with no additional areas added.
Right.
And I think that, and we should definitely specifically say that, because if you don't say it, then it's allowed.
Okay. I totally agree with that.
No objection.
Commissioner DeGray.
I was looking at some of these properties and that are listed here as part of your narrative. And some of them really aren't historical buildings, so I had some issues with that. The only other concern I would have is, okay, the doctor owns the building now, 10 years from now decides he's going to retire, move to a nice warm climate and whatever. And that office space is no longer just telemedicine, it's some other occupation. Would we, the parking situation could then become difficult, seeing there'd only be 9 spaces. So if I live in this building, there's 2 cars plus a guest shows up and this other office space is operating and they have several employees plus, the parking becomes an issue. But that's the only concern that I have. I understand your problem with this building. I don't want to see it just torn down, but I also have concerns about the office once it's no longer telemedicine. If we make this change, it becomes a change until the next time it gets changed. So
Yeah.
that's an issue to me.
May I comment on that?
Absolutely.
They're proposing 9 2-bedrooms, so that's 18 spaces. They have
Leaving 9
27.
spaces.
They
Right.
have 27 spaces. So even if that office use, which is very unlikely to need more parking, I think that they have adequate parking to accommodate that. If
Lori,
it's a more intensive use, we would have to review it anyway for that office. If it becomes, I don't know, a retail store or something, we probably wouldn't even allow that anyway. So that's not going to happen. As far as the historic properties that Mr. Bonanno suggested, I agree with you. Most of them, I don't think even qualified because they're not commercial historic buildings.
Right.
So that's a good thing. So that means there's a lot fewer possibilities of utilizing this regulation.
But then that brings me to another thing. Then this text change becomes spot zoning, because this would be the only building in that area that would come under this text change. Yes, I could be wrong, but I'm asking that question.
That's a possibility. However, I did list, I did suggest that the what's the other one? Rich, what am I talking about? The Hazardville Institute.
Yeah, we're going to buy the place next door, and then we're going to change that into the
Right. So
housing,
the
yeah.
thing is it doesn't matter that it's town owned. It may not be town owned in 10 years or 5 years. You never know. But maybe the town still wants to do an adaptive reuse there. This town would still have to apply. So it really isn't spot zoning. However, the only thing is that is 0.11 acres. And that wouldn't qualify based on the acreage. So we were actually
Then
going to
again, you
discuss
go
maybe
back,
just
this is-
eliminating acreage.
This is spot zoning, and spot zoning is not allowed. So if that's the case, if we go forward, that becomes a spot zoning thing, which is not allowed in the state. So I
If I-
understand the situation with this building, but I also don't want to do something that we can't do. Yes, sir.
What
Go
if
ahead,
we were to
Mike.
remove the minimum acreage?
I was going to suggest that's one option. We could just remove the minimum acreage, which would open it up to more properties such as the Hazardville Institute. But also we are talking about historic buildings. And I'm not sure what classifies or qualifies as historic. And of course, as time goes on, things get older. But of the properties that I located, and I was trying to be broad because I wanted to be transparent, and I didn't, I wasn't trying to be selective in what we were choosing, what properties, but as to what is historic, I'm not sure. I don't know the ages of these different buildings and such, but some of them they look like they're pretty old houses. And of course, as Lori just stated, the town owns the Hazardville Institute now, but they might not, or who knows how much longer they'll own it, in which case that property would be subject to these regs too. But of course, if it was the commission's preference, we could entirely eliminate any minimum acreage requirement, in which case any of these properties that fall within this zone would qualify.
Which are limited.
Right. Because by definition, it's small.
And I think that falls in line with what I was saying before, is that we give them a maximum density for a 1 acre site, and then we adjust it according to that, so that, again, we're not picking and choosing or specifically saying that it has to be a certain thing. And that's like what I said, is that it doesn't matter what the acreage is. It's just a matter of, if it's less than 1 acre, it can't have more than, this many units. And then the units just have to be consistent with, a certain size and the parking allocations, and the fact that, we're not going to be putting any additions onto the buildings that are there. So with that said, I think we just about got it, resolved. I do.
Commissioner
anyway.
Higley.
Because the only other thing I want to add is I want to add in terms of landscaping and screening, so that, you don't necessarily need to do landscaping to provide some screening, and that, sometimes you can do some tasteful screening that is just as good as landscaping, for softening areas, so that, when we talk about landscaping, that, we sort of consider something along those lines too.
Commissioner Higley. You're muted. You're muted, Jenny. All right, anybody else while she tries to figure out why her mic won't come on?
I did propose some language for landscaping, which is, go ahead, Jen.
Go
Sorry.
ahead, Jenny.
Thank you. Quick question. This application is just for the Hazardville overlay district, not any place else in town?
That's correct.
Correct.
Lori?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That answers my question.
Okay.
So I did have some landscaping language that I propose it's not put into the actual wording of the regulation, because I wanted to have the discussion, but basically it says a minimum requirement should be set for landscaping. So we suggested additional landscaping for buffers of new uses from adjacent properties shall be required to the extent that the physical layout of the property permits, if not already existing. Such landscaping shall not be held to the landscaping requirements of section 10.2, which means that you have some waiver ability to the point where, and this is a little bit questionable because it kind of acts as a waiver. So when we get this reviewed by legal, we might need to change it, but at least it gives you a requirement of putting some landscaping in, even though it may not meet the full buffer standards. But I think it might be okay because of the adaptive reuse language.
Okay. All set, Lori?
Yes.
I have a few questions. Is that building have sprinkler systems in it?
It does not now, but as a multifamily residence, it will be required to have a sprinkler system in it.
Right. And I'm starting to see more and more concerns when you have common hallways. You got 9 units, 4 people per unit. you're gonna have quite a few people sharing common corridors. Suppose one of the neighbors doesn't want to wear a face mask with COVID. How do the other neighbors get into their apartments? That's one of my concerns. And then next is, even last time when he came in front of us, you keep saying that the building is the downfall. That's preventing you from changing these units around and doing what you want to do. Maybe it's not the right building for what he's trying to do with it. When he came to us originally, it was going to be a doctor's office and he had it all set up. And he made this commission believe he was going to fix that building up. And, you know, there were bricks falling off the roof. He said he was going to take care of everything. He hasn't touched the building. And it looks just as bad as it did back then. So, you know, I mean, now he wants to make it residential units. What happened to the doctor's offices? And maybe this just isn't the right place for residential apartments, you know, because it does have block walls, and, you know, you don't want to make it a school or, you know, a daycare, but that doesn't mean it can't be made into one of them. And it's in the center of Hazardville. It is a very well-known historical structure there. And you refer to the park next door because you're lacking land for these residents to take their dogs for a walk and stuff like that. So you're trying to use a public park to sell this, that these people will have space to go outside. I just don't know that I'm buying this 100%. And, you know, I didn't buy it before with as many units as it was. I guess I get you're cutting it back down, but again, it's still not the right building for this. And, you know, you're trying to make it work for residential units, and it was never built for residential units. Bigelow is an entire town in the Thompsonville district that has totally different zoning regulations. And Hazardville has done serious improvements over the last 20, 30 years to improve the look of Hazardville, and this is right in the center of it. So I have some very strong reservations about this proposed change, but I just wanted to put my comments out there right now. Commissioners, anybody else before I open it to the public?
Yeah, my name is Konstantinos. I'm the owner, and I would like to say this. Yes, I tried to make it an office, but the building is such a bad shape financially that doesn't make any sense. I cannot get a loan. I don't have any resources to survive that. I'm already in deep debt, and I'm trying to take advantage of what is offered, honoring the historic nature of the building and make it viable. In your town, Anfield, other retail spaces, everything else shutting down. There's not too many options in the United States. We're trying to see what we're facing, how we're going to go through that. Yes, I proposed to do apartment because I was advised by many financial institutions that in the state of Connecticut, everybody does that, and that's the best use for historic buildings. We don't bend rules. We don't change rules. We need some help to work with you. I've been there for 3 years. I lose everything I had. I cannot even make an office there. And I have no resources to maintain the building. I tried to sell it. Nobody buys it. So what I'm asking you is to look into this. How can we save this place and make it viable like every other town did? I'm not asking for to bend any rules. I'm a doctor. I respect rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, Commissioner Limo.
Yeah, thank you. You know, being in the Hazardville section, I would like to see something done with this building, and I hear all the different concerns, and I hear the chairman's concerns over you know, what he had discussed previously. So if you go back and look at how these kind of main streets and old neighborhoods looked, would you consider or think about maybe using the upper floor for residential and the lower floor for some kind of shops where people can walk into? You have the, you know, the tobacco shop. You have other various small shops there. And particularly, you know, in the old center of towns, and I'm from Thompsonville, 90% of the structures were some kind of store down on a lower level and residential upstairs. So can you make it maybe, and think about maybe a mixed use type of thing? Rather than just trying to go 100% residential. And I think that for me, fits the characteristics of the old, we're talking old historical neighborhoods. For me, I think maybe that's a better view. I'm just throwing that out there. But I don't want to see the building just sit there and rot and deteriorate, because that's not good for anything or anybody or any property or any community. And I hear, what the doctor's saying about, him trying and, not having any success in any other endeavor, but throwing that out there. I know you want to have an office, so with an office, some small retail, barber shop, nail salon, I don't know, whatever you can think of, a sandwich shop, coffee shop, just to keep that characteristic of the old neighborhood going. But that's my piece. But I don't want to see this nothing happen.
Mr. Alamo, if the committee is willing to work with me to get out of this mess I'm in right now, I'm more than happy to do that. I mean, at the end of the day, we're trying to revive a declining building, and I'm willing to work with you, provided that the committee is willing to work with us. Because at this point, I'm running out of choices on this matter.
Okay, Rich.
Because, along the lines that, I guess, Frank Limo, Commissioner Limo went in terms of, is it, and looking at it, obviously right now, we're not going to have any kind of, I guess, residential thing in a basement. But, is there access to the basement? And then again, I'm not that familiar with the building, but, when I look at, the first floor plan, I see that the fact that there might be some stairs that are going down to the basement, as soon as you enter that front, hallway, and the remainder of the stairs are going up to the first floor. Am I confused or?
The stairway that is at the left-hand end of the building has a flight of stairs that goes down into the hallway that runs below the first floor hallway.
But on the south side of the building, off of Hazard Avenue, isn't there the main entrance? The original.
Yes,
building?
but there's not a stair at that point that goes down to the basement. The access to the basement is through the staircase that is at the left-hand end of the 1925 portion of the building.
Okay, yeah, because I was just thinking that if there was some way of getting some retail down there, and if it was off the main entrance, then it would make sense. But if it's not off the main entrance, it doesn't seem to make any sense to have any retail on that lower level.
So, Commissioner Suzdak, so what I was envisioning with my thought with that basement or cellar, whatever we want to call it, would support the first floor spaces, commercial stores for their utilities, their mechanical systems. Maybe it might be a small variety store that's going to need compressors and that sort of thing. So all the mechanicals, sprinkler system, fire alarm systems, they're probably going to have to separate the power. Each unit is going to probably need its own meter. So there's going to be a need for that kind of stuff. And aesthetically, being where it is, if you can put everything down there, your air conditioning unit, all your HVAC, anything mechanical, I think that would be the place for it. Being below grade like that, they may run into other issues of egress and safety to try to occupy that. I'm not sure, off the top of my head, that that's doable. But being the way it's laid out and, exiting and other things down there may be a problem. But I see it perfect for, the mechanicals to support the whole building.
Yeah, I agree, and I guess it's just a matter of, whether, the front two, areas need to be residential or whether they can be commercial in terms of, if that first floor, those two units that are on the south side of the first floor become commercial, then obviously, it's, a win-win for everybody involved because of the fact that the only thing that I'm not sure about is the traffic flow as to whether, there's enough parking for somebody to pull in and then pull out and pull in and pull out and put it and, that kind of thing, where if there's a lot of transient traffic associated with a retail or commercial on that area.
I would envision more of an in and out type of business situation there. Go in, pack of cigarettes, coffee, maybe, you know, a haircut, or, I mean, you know, not something that's long-term where people will be sitting there for, you know, having a big dinner for an hour and a half or something like that. That's what I would envision. But I mean, again, the applicant would have to look at it, and, you know, you have to chop up the downstairs, you know, see what you can get for spaces down there, and then, you know, chop up the upstairs and see what you can get for units that comply to the ordinance. And you'd have something, I think, that fits the characteristic of an old neighborhood.
Is there anything that maybe what the regulations should say then is that, you know, possibly we could sort of, again, have another caveat that it has to have, you know, some retail associated with, you know, the residential use in terms of, you know, and maybe what happens is you have 3 units in the back and 5 units on the second floor, so you have 8 units, and then those 2 front units could be an office, you know, space and a retail space, you know.
Whatever kind of mixed use would work. You look at the old Hazardville Hotel.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. You can look downstairs, you have a couple storefronts, you have apartments upstairs.
Right. So maybe what
Currently.
happens is the regulations don't necessarily just dwell on the fact that, you know, everything's residential, is that a portion of it has to be retail or office space, and that, you know, portion could be, you know, 10% or 15% of the building area, so that, you know, if you looked at the building area and you calculated what those 2, you know, front, you know, apartments are, you know, the first 2, you know, and make those retail and office, and then you stuck, you know, that last, you know, 900 square foot that the office is, you made that residential, and instead of having 9 units, you have 8 units with 2 retail areas.
Well,
So maybe
the logistics of it, I think would all have to be worked out, probably back to staff again, but that concept is the same. I mean,
But I
the way
think
you're
that,
laying
you
it
know,
out, conceptually, it's the same thing as I'm saying, but I think logistically with staff and would have to
Right.
figure out all that.
And the thing is, we're not trying to define it. What we're trying to do is come up with regulations that say a certain portion of it needs to be, you know, retail and office, and the remainder could be residential. So
Right,
that-
that's
and
what,
then
that's what,
they can pick and choose whatever they want to do, but not
Right.
necessarily just limit it to the fact that it could go all residential, because of the fact that, you know, this is what we want to do. We want to, you know, have some kind of streetscape plus, you know, residential
Right.
behind and above type of thing.
people
All
can
right.
walk to their little businesses, and that's the kind of neighborhood I think we have in Hazardville.
Okay. Commissioner Petronella.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question for the owner. Because there's only 9 units, are these, is this building, would this be considered exempt from handicapped accessibility as far as handicap ramp or elevator? Because there's really no grade level to get into any of these units. You know, to access any unit, you would have to access a stair, I believe. But if I'm not mistaken, because you're under 10 units, is it exempt? Did you research that at all?
I haven't, but if that's gonna happen, it's gonna be ADA accessible and handicap accessible. Even I contemplate to put an elevator there to accommodate older people, people with disabilities. That's why we're here. We're not it's gonna be accessible to handicaps, and ADA requirements will be met.
Well, I asked that not because I know code is really not in our purview, but if you have to make an accommodation to meet ADA, you may be coming back before the commission, because if you got to put in an elevator, if you do it in the inside of the building, you may be losing square footage and space. Or if you put the addition on, that's certainly gonna require to come back for to this commission for approval as well. So, and if there is an exemption because you're only so many units, you may be fine with it. If you go to a commercial or mixed use, I don't see any way around it. Where I think you would definitely have to require or have to meet the ADA codes, which may require an exterior ramp at the exterior of the building, or I don't know how you would do on the inside, but Anyway, I'm just trying to figure out how, if you got to meet that, how you would do it without coming back to this commission for another look-see and approval. That's all.
Yeah, if we have to, we have to. I mean, definitely these recommendations are great and make sense, and whatever it takes, we'll do. It just, we need a platform to start working on to see where we go from there. Right now, we're kind of in limbo in a little bit. So definitely your recommendations are well taken.
Mhm.
Can I ask what condition the roof is currently in?
Commissioner Limo, you're gonna have to please start raising your hand.
Hang on, let me get my little,
Along with what Commissioner Petronella had stated, do the windows meet egress in this building in all the bedrooms?
The windows, because it's an historic building, they have to be replaced with new energy efficient windows meeting code. So all these windows, they're gonna go, how it happens is that when I went to Historic Society, they told me that you have to meet the size and the length and the width of the windows and order them, custom make them to meet today's standard. And that's the last I heard from Julie Carmichael from Sheba.
Right, and along with what Commissioner Petronella's, with his ADA, how are you gonna put egress windows in this building without altering the facade of the building?
I believe that with the sprinklers, that removes the requirement for egress size windows. But most of those windows easily meet the egress sizes anyway.
Okay, because I don't see any comments from any of the town staff, and I'd really like the building official and fire marshal's input on this before we decide to do a vote or anything. But Commissioner Limo,
yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, me? Ken?
In alteration work, the windows are allowed to be the tilt takeout type of window to achieve the required area. So the sizes of those windows would easily handle egress requirements. But again, I don't believe it's required because of the sprinklers that would be required in there.
Now, would this building have to go in front of the Historic Commission to replace those windows?
Absolutely. What's going to happen is that we're going to have a historic expert come by, take measures, go out, find custom windows, have approved by Julie Carmichael Historic Society before they install. That's a huge expense. I mean, to give you an idea, just the windows to be replaced is more than $250,000. The hugest expenses building because it's historic, and we don't want to avoid that. But it's costing a lot to fix it. But yes, I'm sorry. Yes,
I understand, but expense, again, that's not in the purview of the commission. Like I said, maybe it's not the right building if it's that expensive for you to convert the building. Commissioner Alimo.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. What I was going to ask before, and I apologize for not hitting my button here. To the applicant, can you tell me the condition or tell us the condition of the roof now that we're going into the inclement season here? How's the roof? Do we have leaks in it? Is it holding up?
When I walked into the building in multiple occasions, there are leaks. And the flooring is getting damaged. It's erased because of the rain accumulate water. So yes, the roof needs to be fully replaced.
Right. Well, I figure you would fix the roof when it comes up to whatever you're going to do there. But my concern is, in the meantime, I'd hate to see that deteriorate anymore in there, any more than it is, because the last thing we want to see is that thing get taken down. So that's my question.
Yeah, Mr. Ramo, the moment that we have a platform and we can start working, things will happen there because we need the green light here.
I understand.
And as far as whatever I do this building, if it's become church, school, daycare, any other use, needs to be fixed. It needs roof, it needs windows, it needs everything. Changing the usage doesn't save us anything. The expenses are there. So.
Thank you. I just, I'm concerned about the building deteriorating more. I want, like I stated before, I would like to see something happen.
I agree with you. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer?
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate that this application before you is for the text amendment. And while we know that this building is sort of the root of the cause of this text amendment application, this application isn't approving what he is proposing in that building just yet. It would still need to come before you, and with something of this size, we would probably hold an ART and get the comments of the fire, the building, the engineering departments, health, all of it ahead of time. And those would all be included in whatever plans come forth to the commission in the future for future use. So I just wanted to remind you of that. And that would include structural issues. I'm sure the building department could advise on that. But as far as also local historic approvals, this building is not in the historic district locally. I'm not sure if it's on the state or federal or the national historic lists. I haven't looked into that, but that's all I just wanted to say.
Thanks, Jen. Mike?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to bring up the point that Jen just brought up, so that's one of them. The other thing I just wanted to bring up is the comments with regard to my client and how perhaps it was disingenuous with his first application for the special permit. I just want to apologize to the commission if it came across that way. Perhaps the blame should be on me as I was the presenter, but I can tell you as a commissioner of the Superior Court and an attorney in front of you and entirely transparent, he's been trying to make this work to the, and without getting into any of his private issues, finances, the way that he acquired the property, the problems that we came across throughout the acquisition, the financing, et cetera. Trust me, he's everything but disingenuous. He's really in this town with this property. So I just want to make I take blame if it was presented improperly or you got that impression. But so that aside, there's also, I just wanted from a technical standpoint, Lori had in her staff comments had made some changes to the suggested zone text change, and she and I had discussed them afterwards. And I just want to make sure that we have the correct language in front of the commission. So Lori, I don't know if you want to explain that little that we had talked about in that subsection V or 5.
Hold on. Yes. So under 5, we basically agreed that it should read for the adaptive reuse of underutilized vacant and or deteriorated commercial historic structures, the buildings to multifamily dwellings may take place under, the conversion of buildings to multifamily dwellings may take place under this section, subject to the following requirements. So we would take out of only existing non-residential.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that.
Right. So I'm hearing that, yeah, first of all, I think that adding the multi-use as an incentive or as a possible development is a really good idea. That doesn't mean, I don't know if you want to require that, because it really depends on marketing and what's going to sell. 2 things that I see as a problem with making more retail within this building is that will require more parking, and there are going to be issues with signage. And a lot of people, a lot of retail businesses will not go into a place without a frontage. So like to require that might be the detriment of having the building reused. But to promote it, I think might be a good idea. So what I'm thinking is, at this point, we need to find out about the spot zoning, talk more about the landscaping, maybe come up with some language to add for mixed use. I guess maybe considerations of access might need to be addressed, although I think that that really should just be addressed at the time that somebody makes an application. If they need to put in an addition for handicapped accessibility or a ramp or something of that nature. So I'm just thinking, you know, maybe if you don't have any more questions or comments, maybe we could table this and staff and the applicant could work out a little bit more wording for the next meeting.
What were you
And
saying
Michael, I
about?
don't know what your feeling on that might be.
We would of course consent. Thank you.
What were you leaning towards with the signage, Lori? What were you trying to get at?
Well, so where are we going to put the signage? So, I mean, any retail business wants to have signage outside the front door. Well, the front door isn't, there is no front door. There's one door to all of these businesses that might be inside this building. So where are we going to put the signage? And how's that going to look on the building?
So I would envision maybe
Hand.
multiple entrances on the
Limo.
first floor.
Commissioner Limo, please. Commissioner DeGray.
Oh.
You're muted, Linda.
You're talking about signage, you're going to need signage to promote these apartments too. So that's another thing, but I don't want to get in the weeds. That's something further down the line.
Mhm.
But I'm glad we're going to look at the spot zoning thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Alimo?
I'm good, Mr. Chair, thanks.
Okay. Michael, did you want to speak again? Your hand is up.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm all set.
Okay. At this point, I think we should open it to the public if anybody's out there and hear their concerns, because the commission has quite a few, and add them to the record if we're going to start addressing issues for or against, and see what they say. So at this time, is there anybody who would like to speak in favor or against application 2986 for the text amendment in the Hazardville district? If so, please speak up.
This is Karen LaPlante. I'd like to speak.
Go ahead, Karen. State your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, my name is Karen LaPlante. I live at 166 North Maple Street in Enfield. I've been involved with the Hazardville Institute rehabilitation, and we know how long that's taken. That being one of the anchor buildings in Hazardville, and the old grammar school being one of the anchor buildings, the historic anchor buildings in town. The last thing I would like to see is either of these buildings ever torn down. We don't need another CVS on the corner, a new modern looking building when there's a lot of nice old style homes in that area, whether they're multifamily or transferred into businesses. They all sit nice in the neighborhood. I think the commission has to start thinking very openly about adaptive reuse of these old historic buildings, and I think this is an excellent proposal. And whether it's this building or another building that may fit the same situation, I think it looks good. It needs to be saved. It's deteriorating, and the longer you put this developer off, the harder it's going to be to rehab this building, and it'll end up being torn down. So we need to think about this quickly and rapidly. He's presented a very good reuse of this building, and I think you need to not concern yourself with, you know, mixed use. The park is right across the street. It's a limited space, and I think you need to move forward with this. And that's just about it. We don't want to see this building torn down, and I appreciate this doctor coming back with us to a second time, and I would hope he would be treated with a little bit more respect by someone that is trying to push another agenda what appears to be pushing another agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Is there anyone else who would like to speak for the first time for or against public hearing 2986? Going for the second time. And going for the third time. Okay, at this point, I don't think we should close the public hearing. There's been a lot of information discussed. Karen had some good points. So anything anybody would like to add? Commissioner Suzak?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we table public hearing 2986 till our next meeting and allow staff to, meet with the owner and possibly, and again, all of a sudden, I would like to see some type of, mixed use, but in reality, when I hear about the signage and promoting, and I'm just concerned about the traffic associated with this, a retail area or an office building in that area. But I think that if somehow we can make an incentive where, if somehow they're able to include some retail or office space that, there's a caveat that, you get, an additional something somewhere that goes along with whatever you're trying to achieve and make it definitely, more, profitable for, both the owners and the town so that, everybody wins in the end.
Good.
So anyways, the motion is to table this till our next meeting.
Is there a second?
I'd
Second motion.
Motion's made and seconded by Commissioner Petronella. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, the public hearing has been tabled. Thank you, everyone. A lot of great ideas, and we'll bring them up next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Old business, seeing none. New
Mr.
business, public hearing
Mr. Chair,
29.
I'll make a motion that we add to the agenda an extension request by 55 Cottage, Road, public hearing 2973 for our 90-day extension, and also for our flood application FLD 20 for a 90-day extension that'd be added to old business 9A. Before we skip over that, I'm sorry.
Okay. Motion's made. Is there a second?
I don't see that even on my agenda.
It's
Well,
not.
I'm adding it.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Motion's made and seconded by Commissioner Petronella. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, Rich. Okay, new business, public hearing 2930.02. Roll call.
Do we have, is it roll call?
Oh, is it withdrawn? Yeah, it's withdrawn.
Right.
Lori?
Do we have anything in writing?
I did receive an email from Daniel Jameson with Design Professionals, dated October 14th. He says, hello, everyone. Unfortunately, the applicant would like to withdraw the Enfield Manor application at this time. They hope to reapply next year if all goes well. Sorry for any trouble this may cause. Would it be possible for us to pick up any remaining items, plan set submitted? So I'm not sure whether funding issues happened or what, but they, this was their representative, so we do have something in writing.
Maybe they're addressing the COVID concerns too. You're putting all those elderly people in common corridors with all the other people renting there. So I'm sure that's got to be a huge concern for everybody right now. Okay, so is that you okay, Laura? Is that a complete withdrawal of the whole project or just what they were asking to change?
No, just the modifications.
Oh, just a modification. Okay, thank you. New business B, appointment of PZC liaison to the Economic Development Commission. Commissioner Richard Suzak's commission expired 12/31/2019, 3-year term. Rich, are you looking for reappointment?
I would like to continue as the liaison. I've been involved, I guess, with the Economic Development Commission now for, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years. And, we have sort of a group of people who are, going down a certain path, and I would like to maintain some, contact with them and hopefully, report back to, our commission as to, what we're doing and how we're doing it, so that there's some continuity in the thought process that occurred, for the past few years.
Great. Commissioners, any concerns with
Oh, I
reappointing?
second that.
Okay. So everyone in favor of reappointing Rich to the Economic Development Commission, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Congratulations, Rich. Unanimous. Thank you. Other business, discussion regarding proposed Lake Overlay District text amendment language.
All right. So it's at our last meeting, or the last meeting that I attended, I believe in early September, we had discussed the potential changes to the Lake District regulations, and we had provided data for just, I believe, Shaker Pines Lake and not Crescent Lake. The commission had requested that staff take some time to include Crescent Lake in those calculations, which we have now done. I can say that Shaker Pines Lake has 97 properties around it. Crescent Lake has 53 properties within that Lake Overlay District for a total of 150 properties. The addition of Crescent Lake really didn't change the overall numbers too much, and staff still proposes the same change in lot coverage to allow a 3% increase over 20%. So for properties that are 10,500 square feet or lower. For reference, out of 150 properties in the Lake District overall, 57 of them are 10,500 square feet or under. Out of those 57, 30 of them are already over 20%, and 13 of them are not included in the 30 I just said. 13 more are just shy of 20%. So that's a lot of properties out of 57 that are at or very nearly over the current 20% coverage allotment. So I know the commission had discussed some of the statistics at the last meeting, and I know that I believe we did send these out after the meeting that I was at in early September. I don't know if the commission had time to look at it, but those are the numbers that I have. If you have any questions, I know Randy Daigle is also here. His application 55 Cottage Road is sort of what pushed us to move forward with updating the Lake District regulations.
All set, Jen?
Yep.
Commissioner DeGray.
I just have one question. Now, when we talk about the Lake District, we are only talking about the properties that actually touch the lake. So
correct. Yep.
So if I live across the street from the lake and I'm on this small little lot because they were all cottages to begin with, I, as the property owner across the street, would not be able to exceed my 20%, but it would be okay for my neighbor across the street to do that. Do you see where I'm going with that? I still have issues with the overall, increasing the coverage just for the people who live directly on the lake, but not for the people across the street. That to me is is an issue. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Linda. Commissioner Suzak.
You know, and I hear what Commissioner DeGray is saying, and I totally agree with that. But and I think that what we need to do is again, we are revising the regulations, and that, you know, all these non-conforming lots that are relatively, you know, land bound and are sort of confined by their neighbors from doing a lot of development. I think that, you know, what we need to do is we need to look at, you know, all the zones and you know, that are somewhat similar in nature and define something consistent for the entire town. And I think that, you know, previously we were looking at, you know, a maximum lot coverage of 25% rather than 23 is kind of an odd, you know, figure to work with. And, you know, round numbers always make a lot of sense. And I think that, you know, possibly we were looking at increasing, you know, the lot, you know, cut off from, you know, 10.5 to maybe 12, I think we were talking about, so that, you know, so that we create, you know, sort of a, I guess 12,000 square feet, I think is a quarter of an acre, more or less, you know, maybe a little more than a quarter acre, but it's that kind of thing where, you know, if we start dealing with kind of a nice round number and something that's consistent, and, you know, this way we can carry it from zone to zone to zone. We don't necessarily need to be doing this spot language change, and maybe we incorporate it into, you know, the other non-conforming areas that exist, so that, you know, again, people have the opportunity to do something, you know, relatively consistent with, you know, today's standards on their property, rather than being, you know, saddled by, you know, regulations that have been in effect but are somewhat out of date, and you know aren't necessarily reflective of what their position is on their property and on their land. So, you know, I think that, you know, we need to, you know, get out of, you know, being policemen, but allowing people to do things and just control things rather than police everything. So, you know, with that said, you know, I'm all for, you know, passing, you know, this lake, you know, text amendment with our previous discussions, you know, prior to doing the extra research and going along those lines. I think that it makes perfect sense. And what we just did is get some confirmation that, you know, both lake districts are about the same. So let's do it, you know, for the lake districts. Let's do it for their neighbors across the street, and you know, just keep things on a consistent basis.
So along those lines with Commissioner Suzak, I do recall our last discussion, and Rich, you brought it up. It was 25% at 11,000 square feet.
Okay, that's fine. Yep.
Right. Am I right? That's what I thought we were just.
Yeah, I think a quarter of an acre is 11,000, not 12,000. And when I was talking, I was going through my head, but I couldn't think that fast. You know?
And then in regards to Commissioner DeGray, I understand, and normally I would agree with you 100%. The difference between one side of this road and the other is the people abutting the lake are hindered by the wetlands and the restricted area, basically deeming their entire front yards useless. They can't really do anything in that area. So you got to kind of create something so they could expand more in their rear yards. And I still have a hard time frontwards and backwards. But otherwise, Linda, I would agree with you wholeheartedly. You know, I don't agree with spot zoning, but, you know, this is specific for basically the abutters of the two lakes. And I go with Commissioner Suzak. I think we've beat up the staff pretty good on this, and I've got the answers that I need. The only answer that I'm still waiting for is, if we put this through, is it possible to build 25% on 11,000 square feet or less without encroaching on the setbacks? Because if it's not, this doesn't work.
At the moment, the proposal is, just to add a provision for coverage change. to what's existing in the Lake District regulations as it is. The regulations right now say that the setbacks can be changed based on the or by no more than what the average of the block face is, but then block face isn't defined. So we added, or staff has been counting the block faces 5 properties to the north and south of the property in question, and taking the average of those. The thing is that it really, given the orientation of the buildings on the lake and the variety in sizes, you can have a point, you can have like you could have a really small property right next to a really large property in the Lake Districts. And so what we found is that it was a good idea, but ultimately that the people in the Lake District just end up having to conform to the regulations as they are, which is 10-foot side yards and 35-foot front and rear yards. And even greater than that if they have a property that is conforming in 33,000 square feet.
Okay. Commissioner Alimo.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to think about what Commissioner DeGray was saying. I think she's right. Maybe we should think about the people across the street, because some of those lots as well are prohibiting them from any kind of addition, or am I right? They have the same restrictions of the people next to the lake. I know their front yards, their backyard, and their backyards, their front yard, and it's all different, but would not including the other properties that aren't on the water, would we be maybe being unfair as far as property value later? I'm just throwing that out there. They can't make, as good as improvements to their, their neighbor across the street that's on the lake. I'm just putting that out there for a matter of fairness and real estate value going forward. Thank you.
Commissioner Higley, what is the restricted area currently on wetlands? Is it 200 feet?
It's 100 feet.
100
I think it's
feet.
150. It's not
100
200.
Right. So 150 feet, Commissioner Alimo. Nobody abutting the lake can do anything with that part of their yard. Where across the street, they can do whatever they want. That's the big difference between the two properties. So if you want to build a shed, you would have to go in front of wetlands and try to get a waiver to build in the restricted area. And then you have high water mark, low water mark, for the lakes. Across the street doesn't have any of that. And that is a huge difference between one side of the street and the other. So like I said, I would normally agree with Commissioner DeGray on this. But there's such a drastic change from one side of the street to the other. You really can't. I mean, what's to stop the people across the street from building in their backyard or their front yard, backyard, whatever you want to call it, where like this particular applicant can't.
Right. Because
the lake's there and the restricted area. People think water and it ends at the water line, they're good to go. Regulations show, 150 at high water mark, you really shouldn't do anything there. And wetlands is very, very strong on what they allow to be done in that regulated activity. And that's why I agree with Commissioner Suzak on this, that, the staff has gotten us everything we've asked for. Both lakes have the hardship due to the restricted area. And again, this is why if wetlands and planning and zoning would work together, I've been on the commission 2 years, never gotten a phone call from wetlands. And I can ask Charlie Duran, I bet you he never got one either. How do we move the town forward if planning and zoning and wetlands don't work together and do stuff like this? And this is exactly what I'm talking about. And this is the first step.
Oh, good. Well, thanks for the explanation and the analysis of it. paused for a minute when I heard Linda
Yep.
say what she said, because I don't want people to think that we were treating them unfairly.
Linda's right. She
No,
is right.
Right, but
In
I just
normal
want, no, I paused.
situations,
It made me
right.
pause.
Yeah.
And thank you for, the explanation and the analysis of it. I totally got it. Thank you.
Commissioner Higley, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing. Not only do they have the whammy of the distance away from the body of water, but they also have escarpment issues. Several of those properties have escarpments, and those they have to come before us if they're going in front to do anything close to an escarpment. So the people have a double challenge in front of them.
Right. Okay. Commissioners, anything else you'd like to add before I open this to is this a public hearing?
No.
Nope, this is just discussion.
Oh, just discussion. Okay. All right. Any other discussion?
I believe Mr. Daigle's here, and I thought that I saw him raise his hand earlier.
Mr. Daigle, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I didn't want to talk if I wasn't allowed to talk. But the only thing I'd like to add is the fact if we were to go up to a 23 or 25%, we have a certain square. And then if we're increasing that to 23 or 25, like Commissioner Higley said, we can't go towards the lake. So we have to go towards the back, which is the street side. And the street side has 35-foot setback. If that would be reduced to at least 30, it'll allow people to put a garage in my instance up and not have to go through special, applications and such, because we can't go towards the lake. So, and we don't want to inhibit on their neighbors because that would be more invasive. So by the only way we can put our addition, which would be in the back, in the rear, lake street side in my condition, and by having a 35-foot setback, it doesn't allow us to meet the 23 or 25%. If we go to 30, then we'd be able to go and put a garage on the street side. Like I said, it's less invasive than going sideways, and we can't go into the water. So that's my only comment. But I appreciate you guys very much looking at this, and it's not easy what you guys do, believe me. So I just thank you very much for all the effort and everything you guys done.
Thank you. Commissioner DeGray.
Am I muted? I don't
Nope.
know.
Yeah.
Okay. Just one thing is the side yards would still stay the same. 10 feet from both sides with this text change. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That's what I want to make sure. I understand what Mr. Daigle is saying, that he can't build toward the water, he can build backwards, but there's still a 10-foot setback on both sides. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Commissioner Alimo.
Sorry, I forgot to put my hand down.
Okay. Any other commissioners, comments, questions? Along with Commissioner Suzak, if I heard him correct, I'm ready to move on this. Rich, are you ready?
Yeah, yes, I am. And in terms of, I think that, when we put the 25% maximum, everybody doesn't have to build to 25% maximum. What we're trying to do is just give you a little more leeway. And the thing is, maybe what you need to do is go a little wider rather than longer, and maybe, rearrange some, usage that way. But, I think for the most part, at this time, until we actually study, all the, rear lots, setbacks and whatnot, it'd be difficult for us to just make a blanket statement and just decrease that by, 5 feet, recognizing that, your driveways are going to be off the, that backyard, you're going to be, have some, parking there, and you might have guests, and you need somewhere to put, all this, commuting thing. So anyways, at this point, I think that, I'm ready to move along the lines that we discussed without addressing, I guess the rear lot setback at this time. without doing more study. I think it would require just more study and you know, that's beyond our scope at this time.
So do I have a consensus?
So I mean,
I'm good with it.
If that's the case, you know, Mr. Chair, I'll motion that we, you know, proceed with the text change amendment for the, you know, the Lake Overlay District as discussed, you know, utilizing, you know, a 11,000 square foot, you know, cutoff point in a 25% coverage maximum, and to keep, you know, the remainder of the setbacks, you know, consistent with the present regulations.
Okay, motion's made. Is there a
Second.
second? Motion's made and seconded by Commissioner Higley. Comments or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay. That's a big one off our list. Next, discussion on farm breweries and wineries.
I don't know, I have to rewind it. We missed something.
What?
Hello?
She said it had to have a public hearing.
Who?
I just muted. So we've had some requests to consider wineries and breweries at farms. And I think I may have given you a lot of data as to some other regulations and stuff, but I just wanted to just discuss real briefly as to if we were going to move forward with allowing breweries or wineries, you know, what would your thoughts be on things like having tasting rooms and you know, hours of operation, what parking, you know, with the, you know, how many barrels would you want to see for a brewery? I mean, so these things all come up when, you know, when you first just think of a winery, you just think, okay, well, they're going to grow some grapes, they're going to smash them up, they're going to make wine, and there's going to be a tasting room. But then there's the catering, and then there's maybe a food truck. And then, you know, maybe there's going to be accessory things that they might grow on site, honey or something of that nature. So I just kind of wanted to get your general feel as to, you know, what you would like to see. Would you rather just see just a little winery, or do you want to, and when I say winery or brewery, I'm kind of meaning the same thing. Or do you want to be able to allow little larger establishments, things? So like there's Lost Acres Winery in Granby. They have a little building, and in the building you could rent it out, and you could have a party there, or you could just go to their tastings. They rent it out to the yoga studio, but basically they're a winery. So I'm trying to just kind of get a feel from you all as to, you know, what you would like to permit, because it's going to make a difference as to how we would create the regulations.
I personally think it should be regulated by the amount of acreage that the particular property has, because that will be able to accommodate, you know, the crowd, the parking, so on and so forth. I'd hate to see somebody with a 3-acre farm, you know, have 500 people on their property because they brought in tractor trailer loads of wine for a wine tasting. I love the idea, but I think it should be more about the homegrown. So if somebody has 50 acres, you know, 50 cars or something. I mean, I'm just throwing numbers out there, but at least, you know, the bigger the farm, the bigger the venue you can do, like Collins Creamery. They have the parking to do what they do, and I don't see this any different than what Collins does with their milk. And I think they have a phenomenal business, and they do a great job over there. And this is the perfect time of year to go there and get pumpkins, corn stalks and stuff. And It's time we promote our farms and try to give them a little extra revenue to help them move forward. And, hopefully they join with the farmers market and, we bring our town together as a community and cherish what we have for farmland because we have enough of it. That's
Okay.
my opinion.
Does anybody else have any
Frank
thoughts?
Alimo.
Yeah, I would like to see it, all of the above, what Lori was describing, the possible uses, with the caveat that it has to be there and the wine has to be made there, nothing brought in, like Commissioner Nelson was talking about, wine from outside and tractor trailers. But I would say let it fly and allow everything and make it a family venue, so they can have stuff for children and families can go, this time of year, whatever they can do, around the Halloween theme, around Christmas. But I think we should promote our farms and then I'd let it fly. Let them have it. Let them have a go at it. Keep it on their property. Has to be made there, and have people be able to go and enjoy and somewhere where people could take their kids.
So made on site.
Made on site, right? That'll avoid anything from coming in. And then there probably is state liquor laws that they have to comply with as well. That so that would control that as well. But yeah, made on site.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Alimo. Commissioner Suzak.
And again, I was going to say exactly what Commissioner Nelson said is that it really should be dependent upon acreage and what they can accommodate. And, other than that, I think that, we can allow, the small breweries to flourish and the larger, establishments to, sell to, other communities as well as ours, so that, and then they can have, larger wine tasting. In terms of, somebody mentioned Halloween, and I remember during my younger years, I used to go out for trick or drink. So, but anyways, that was many years ago. So no more.
Thank you, Commissioner Suzak. Commissioner DeGray.
I do go to a lot of wineries because I used to make wine myself, and I think it should be based on the size of the winery itself, and it has to be that person's wine. It can't be imported wines from all over. So depending on the size of the farm, would depend on what they'd be able to do. If they have a huge farm with 10,000 acres, which I don't think we have any in Enfield, and they can have a wedding venue out there, whatever, go for it. But it definitely would have to be local farms, and depending on their size would depend on what they could
do.
Right.
Thank you, Linda. Commissioner Grillo.
I agree, Kenny. The only thing is, I think that they should just have the same rules, regulations as the other breweries that are out there, that would be right down the street from that farm that can have that brewery and winery. That's the only thing I have. I just think that they should have the same rules and regulations as, they shouldn't be special because they're a farm. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Alimo, did you want to speak again?
No, I put my hand down, but I can't wait till we go live.
Okay. So, by the sounds of it, I think you have consensus that the commission's definitely on board with it, but it would have to be, size specific. So somehow, come up with a formula, 10 acres, 10 cars, 50 acres, 50 cars, something like that. And most of these places, it's seasonal. Halloween pumpkins, and maybe they'll brew pumpkin beer or something like that. Wintertime, sleigh rides stuff. And I think it's New England to a T, and I'd be very happy to see something like this happen in Enfield.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for that.
You got everything you need?
I think we've got a direction.
Good.
Just wanted to
Thank
make
you.
sure we were sort of on the same page, literally.
Thank you. Next, discussion of winter farmers and craft markets in industrial zones.
So this came before you informally before, and I think the general consensus of the commission was that it was not a very good idea.
Yeah.
Subsequently, the owner of the Manning Road, I guess it used to be the old Hallmark, I think, is he here? No, I don't see Chip LeBond. Anyway, he actually went to the neighborhood and said, what would you think about it? And he got very good response. And basically this would just be like, one, maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or maybe even just one day a week on the weekend, most likely. They'd take part of their industrial site and have a winter farmers market. It's not so much a winter farmers market because nothing's growing in the winter. So let's face it, it's going to be more of a craft market, similar to what we have now as our farmers market. So it would be very limited in time frame and limited as to how many cars would be going there. I mean, there would be a lot less than the trucks going every week. So I think the neighborhood generally felt they'd much rather see this there than have more trucks come up and down their streets. So with that, he was just wondering, do you think that he should move forward with this application? Because he doesn't want to make an application if you guys are dead set against it.
So
I mean, this is kind of the wave of the future. It's again, this is adaptive reuse of things that are just not filling up anymore.
I understand. So when I heard about this, my biggest concern is the road it's on. And this road has truck traffic Monday through Friday. And now we're going to put car traffic or truck traffic on it Saturday and Sunday. So I'm not ruling it out because I do believe in coming up with different uses for buildings. But the only way I would move forward with this, and this is me speaking, is it would be a public hearing and a physical mailing would go out to every neighbor on that street. So they are fully aware of what's going on, because I find it hard to believe these people are going to okay, because it's not limiting Monday through Friday traffic. It's just using the same space on weekends for something different. So that's the only way I'm willing to accept this, but that's my opinion. And, that's what I told Lori. So we definitely want to hear what you guys have to say. Commissioner Higley.
Oh, I had all these notes. And when I saw it in my email, I was like you, Ken. It's like, I find it hard to believe the neighbors would want this. But my thing is, they gave us two uses. They gave us one from Maryland, which I just didn't even read, and then one from Manchester. And I thought it was interesting that Manchester says certain uses are deemed appropriate, but not at every location. And
yeah.
I have no problem with a farmer's winters market in industrial land. I have a problem with it at that location. And so I'm just saying that as it stands now, I'm very pro farmers markets. I think it would be great to have it in Enfield inside, but I'm with Ken. They have traffic every single day. Let them have a little peace on the weekend. And that's just me, especially if you have crafts, because you're going to have box trucks going down there, so that they can bring their wares and everything. But thank you for letting me speak.
But that's why I said, Jenny, if we hold a public hearing, we can hear directly from the neighbors, not secondhand information. And if they support it, then I would entertain it. But I definitely, on this one, I agree with the public, firsthand written letter to them.
Yep. But Ken, this is one of the prime locations I have on my list for when we redo the zoning regulations. I think we should take a concerted look at all the areas in town that have one or two properties zoned industrial or commercial and the rest all residential, so that we can change it. We can do it all residential And it won't harm the businesses that are there now because they're protected. They're already there. And I think that this would kind of do a lot to alleviate people from finding new creative uses, and just thank you for letting me speak.
Well, this is what Linda was saying about spot zoning, because that's exactly how that building got there, and it shouldn't be
Thank
there.
you.
So, yeah.
Yes, and I think we should fix it.
Yeah. Commissioner DeGray.
I agree about the traffic. These people have always come before us and said, we need some kind of reprieve. And we have commercial spaces currently that are empty. We have a whole big mall that traditionally we've held our craft fairs at for years. Even when, all right, dating myself, Mays Mall was first built, the craft fairs were always held in the mall during the winter. I don't see a reason to allow this change in the industrial zone, especially on that particular street. And like you said, you're gonna have the big trucks coming in, the box trucks, because somebody makes furniture. Well, that's a craft. So how are you going to stop that from, and I've got a truck full. And the next thing you know is you've got people coming from out of state because they're trying to sell their wares. So you're going to increase your traffic. And the longer it stays there, the more traffic, and people come back and say the cars are going too fast. So I have an issue with that area particularly.
Thank you, Commissioner DeGray. Anyone else? Commissioner Suzak.
I was just going to reiterate what everybody else is saying in terms of, I find it hard to believe that, we wouldn't have a public hearing, and that, as long as the public is informed and everybody comes up and speaks favorably about it. Otherwise, I would have serious concerns about, even going down that path. And, and they might, look at us and say, what are you guys, crazy? You know how we stand on this, and why would you even think that we would be, for it? But anyways, if we're going to go forward, it would definitely have to be down that path where we would definitely get input from the neighbors for sure.
The only reason I'm saying public hearing to move this forward, Rich, is because the owner of the building is saying he spoke with all the neighbors and they're favorable, because other than that, I would have been a flat out no. I agree with you. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and let's hear directly from the neighbors. And that's why, I'll hand deliver them to the whole street. I don't care, but I want a physical handwritten letter handed to every one of those residents so nobody can say they didn't know about this, and they have a right to speak. So that's where we stand, Lori.
Okay.
Righty.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
Okay, moving on. Discussion on creating new plan of conservation and development steering committee.
Ooh. Somebody needs oil.
What is she doing?
Yeah, so I plan on sending out a little memo to all of the boards and commissions, asking them to appoint 1 to 2 members of their commission, board, or council to the steering committee. Don Poland is on with us at this point too, so we're going to be discussing a bunch of different zoning regulations and where we're going to go with that. But I just want to let you know that I didn't know if you want me to send it out to you for your approval, or do you just want me to send it to all the boards and commissions to get it moving?
Well, I think me and Rich have had a discussion about the size of this, and I would say 2 members from each commission and go from there. Maybe a leadership role if, the chairman wants to be involved.
Yeah, and then, Mr. Chair, that's what I was going to bring up in terms
Go
of,
ahead,
I think that, it would make sense to have, the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission on the Plan of Conservation and Development. Only because, I think that what we need to do is have, a definite presence of, people who are making decisions and are putting forth policy for, our commission, and that, the more voices we hear, and voices that don't always necessarily agree, but, they, come up with good ideas and reasons why, certain things should be, a certain way. So, I would like to make a statement that we include our chair, on this steering committee as, a participant. And, again, if I have to step down, that's fine too. But, I think that, we need to definitely have our chair there so that we have a strong presence of the governing decision-making, entities that our Planning and Zoning Commission has.
Well, Rich, I personally feel you started this, and, I did it with the intention of you following it all the way through. If you want leadership there, I have no problem being on there with you also. And see what the other boards and commissions want to do. But I think, we can't have 100 people there
No,
for each
and-
board and commission, because we're never going to get anywhere.
Sure. But I think that, our commission, unfortunately, has taken lead in terms of, we've started, the ball rolling, it's through our, commission that everything is going to be passing. So at this point, I think that, if the chair is definitely involved in the decision making, it makes the information exchange a lot simpler and easier for everybody to digest. And the thing is, if, we need that strong leadership, that, to keep the leader in the dark, and then all of a sudden say, oh, this is what we're going to do. And he's going to say, wait a minute, that's not what my vision was. And so, I think that, it would make sense to include, our chair as part of that, discussion committee. You don't
agree.
necessarily have to be the chair of the committee, you're just a participant now, but I think that, we need to, have a strong presence from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay.
I certainly concur with that. I think that would be a great idea. At this point, I just wanted to send a letter out to all the boards and commissions and the town council and see if we could start getting people signed up for the steering committee, and then we could talk further about business leaders and farmers and anybody else that you might like to see on the committee. I think if we had 2 people from each, that gives the opportunity for one person to miss a meeting here and there and still have continuity of thought. So, and, reporting. So I think that that's what you did last time around, it looks like. So I've just figured I'd follow that suit unless you had other ideas.
So I do, to make them productive meetings, I would ask that you have put it in some sort of way that each one of these commissions appoint somebody who is knowledgeable to what we're trying to accomplish. You've got to have some experience with wetlands and planning and zoning and building, and you don't have to be a genius on everything, but you've got to know something about how a town works, because otherwise, we're not just looking at, oh, this will look pretty here. Well, and it ties the meeting up, and it could make this last for years. So, we want knowledgeable people to be sitting there. That's why I'm surprised Rich wants me there, but anyways. So
but that's why you have like 2 people from the Conservation Commission. You've got 2 people from Wetlands, and you've got 2 people from ZBA. You've got 2 people from Council. I mean, because that way you've got the knowledge around the table. Maybe it's not, all from one person, but at least you're going to have an input towards those concepts and elements. So
right, and that's what I'm saying. Somebody who has the ability to have input there. So they may not be an engineer, but let's face it, some people appointed to committees have no idea. what they're doing on these committees, and it's just a friend of a friend, and I know the town's been trying to change it. But, you know, this is the future of the town of Enfield for the next 10 years.
Okay. So we're looking for knowledgeable and open-minded people to join us.
Good.
All right, I think I've got my direction there, and Don Poland is here. I'm gonna open up the meeting to him, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
Go right ahead.
Don Poland.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here tonight. So I guess my item on the agenda was that other business D, the Planning and Zoning Commission workshop and discussion with the consultants. I believe Lori sent on to you 4 documents that I provided related to this. And I just wanted to take a few minutes of your time. I'll keep this short, recognizing the time of night, to just introduce you to these documents and what I sent to you in preparation for ultimately this workshop. So one document is just a quick summary. It's called The Role of the Consultant. And it's me trying to give you guys kind of a context of how I go about this process, both for the POCD and the zoning regs. At the end of the day, I'm here as an expert to provide you with subject matter expertise and perspective. I'm also a facilitator to help facilitate this process. And ultimately, I view a lot of the work that I do in this setting with commissions as being a counselor and helping you guys kind of work through those questions. What are the problems we are trying to solve? Where do we want to go in the future? What are, our desired outcomes and so forth? So that's pretty straightforward and simple. It's the next 3 documents that are kind of all related. The first one was called a discussion of use, and that's a lead-in, just kind of getting you guys to think about the use aspect of zoning, the fact that you split up a town into districts, you then designate what kinds of uses can go there, and then the permitting requirements to get those uses. So it's kind of an introductory piece. I then provide another document that's called Site Plan and Special Permit Provisions. And this is basically just a summary of what your current zoning regs are related to the criteria approval for site plan and special permit. Because ultimately this exercise I want to run you guys through, hopefully at the next meeting or the next available time that you and staff decide is appropriate, then relates to the 4th and final document, which is I split out your table of uses by zoning district into a very simple six-page document. What I want to do with you guys is essentially run you through these tables of uses and have a discussion around, why these uses are the way they are. And I'm not being judgmental. It's just to explore and discuss. Fact is, I don't believe you guys have updated the regs now in approximately 20 years. The last time you probably had a serious discussion about all your uses was probably 20 years ago. And at the end of the day, you guys are not the same commission today as the commission that existed 20 years ago. So essentially, I just want to go through this exercise of let's discuss what these uses are. Let's talk about why they're permitted or why they're not permitted. And then let's talk about the permitting process that's required to actually get an approval of these uses. Ultimately, what that will do, and we won't come to any final decisions, but that's going to give me a really good feeling for kind of how you guys think about your regulations, how you think about uses, how you think about the permitting process. And that will help me then start going through the process of making updates, modifications, or recommendations to you as to how to deal or treat with uses moving forward. The other thing we may also do along the way is we may find some uses that just aren't relevant anymore, that times have changed. So, every now and then I come across a set of zoning regulations that allows bomb shelters as an accessory use in residential zones. it's kind of a 1950s, 1960s Cold War era thing that just lingers on forever. If we come across stuff like that, we can get rid of it. We may also discuss just kind of terminology. Maybe the way we refer to something isn't the same, you know, vocabulary you're using in your current tables and so forth. So that's essentially what I hope to be doing at a workshop with you guys shortly. And I just wanted to give you a very quick introduction to those documents and ask you to review them beforehand of doing that workshop so that we're ready to jump in and go. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Questions? Any questions for him? Frank?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So will that be, when we have our workshop, is that going to be the session where we could have some input on things that we wanted looked at? I know last week or last month, I had mentioned, you know, the riverfront. I brought up the riverfront and led to a lot of discussion about, kind of went off onto Thompsonville and other things. So tonight I did prepare a list of 7 items I want to see reviewed, but I can hold them to a workshop if that's what how we're going to go forward.
Yeah, so I'd say this. One is I'm always open to feedback and information. So if you want to send those 7 things on through Lori to me, you know, just to get them to me, that's great.
I can just say them, and I'd rather just say them so we get them on a record.
Sure, that's fine too.
But I just want to do it at the appropriate time and place.
Yeah, and I just want to make a procedural kind of comment here in that we have 2 projects going simultaneously, a POCD update project and a zoning regulation update project. And the discussion around the riverfront, from my perspective right now, is more about the POCD and planning, and the workshop coming up, I'd like to focus more on zoning and uses. In the end, the planning will lead into that zoning work, but at this point, I just want to kind of keep those things separate. So we will definitely get to a point with the POCD committee to start addressing those planning issues.
Right. What I have is just mixed planning and, you know, zoning.
Understood. And
the 7 topics I have are for planning and relative zoning.
Yeah. So at the next meeting, I'd say this. Let's just start the meeting off with 10 or 15 minutes to give you guys an opportunity to feed me with information that you think is important on either topic. And that will provide me guidance going forward, and we can get your 7 items in the record and anyone else who has specific items. So
that's fair. So at our next regular meeting, you're saying?
Whenever I'm scheduled for this workshop, and I'm leaving that up to staff.
Very good. Appreciate you.
Mr. Chairman, I do think that we need to schedule a special meeting for this. You know, we have so much on our agendas typically, and I know we've got a couple things coming up already. And I think we really need to be able to focus on the task at hand. So we only have 1 meeting in November. So, you know, perhaps we could set a special meeting at, you know, I can't say that it will be, if we just schedule it for any specific time, any day, we may not be able to record it through ETV, but we could record it.
Right. Right now,
people would still be able to join it to see, but they would not be able to participate. And I'm thinking, because it is a special meeting, we're still gonna, under COVID requirements and everything, we're still gonna have to, you know, have it as a public meeting.
Right.
Which we would if we were in you know,
right,
meeting live.
But at a public meeting, you can't discuss anything that's on the agenda.
Right. Well, this is going to be a special meeting, and the only thing that's going to be on the agenda are these 4 items and a brief discussion,
right,
as Don just said. So
the public's welcome to join, but they just won't be able to comment.
Right. They're not able to comment. That's right.
So why don't you set up a time with Don, and then just email the commission. I know I'm open for special meetings. Obviously, I don't want it Thanksgiving weekend, but
oh, come on, I'm not doing anything.
So
what are you doing for Thanksgiving, really? Who are you going to get together with?
I'm gonna eat, and I don't want to see you guys to see me with my pants unbuttoned and I look like a stuffed turkey.
So I guess I just wanted to take a poll as to, is there a good time or a bad time for people? I mean, we have a meeting on the 12th. The following Thursday, we've got an EDC meeting, so I would be unavailable. Maybe the 18th, which
That
is a
night,
Wednesday.
I'm not available on the 18th.
Okay, so this is what's going to happen, is we're going to have an issue. That's why I wanted to have this conversation. Don, what was your thoughts? Were you going to you wanted to try to have this done before Thanksgiving, do you think?
He's muted.
I would love to if possible. Generally for me, just so you know, Tuesday nights and Thursday nights are going to be the best. Wednesday night, I'm always conflicted out.
Okay, so Wednesdays are out. Well, Rich is always golfing anyway.
No,
November.
Tuesdays are fine. I think a Tuesday night would be a, you know,
Tuesday,
it's not a Monday and it's not a Friday.
What about the 10th?
I can't do the 10th.
See, this is why, and I hate to say it, that's why there's so many members on planning and zoning, because if somebody can't make it, the rest of us can be there. You're not going to get all of us to come up with a timeline. I think, Lori, you and Don need to create a time, and that's when this special meeting is. And if we can make it, we make it. And if we can't, we can't. And this is exactly why we need to limit the committee, because we can't keep doing this. So, you know, Don's on our dime, more to say. So he wants to get this done. We need to make it happen. And, you know, if it's the 10th or the 18th, whatever day works for the two of you, then whoever can make it makes it.
How about the 10th or the 16th?
How's the 16th, Linda and Frank?
Good.
Perfect.
There it is, the 16th. How about you, Don?
He says
Sounds
he's
good.
got a thumbs up. Okay, so we're gonna do November 16th,
Yep.
special meeting. What time? We typically start at 7. Can we start earlier? Do you want to start earlier?
I can start at any time. So what does the commission think?
I could do 6. That
Ginny,
way I
you're-
know I'm home.
Ginny, you were muted. What were you saying?
I said, I'm with you. I can do anytime.
Okay. How about 6 o'clock, guys?
Okay.
Is that good for you, Don?
Yep.
You know, I'm looking at my calendar. It says Revolution Day, Mexico. So does that mean, you know, we should have a drink with us? or-
Everybody bring a
Yes.
margarita.
Lori,
Or cerveza.
Laura, I have a question for Lori.
Yeah?
We were talking about, Mr. Chairman was talking about the meeting and the process of, you know, who can speak or what kind of a meeting it's gonna be. I just want to be sure that we look to make sure it's properly warned, and that, so we don't do it for nothing and somebody doesn't complain. I know people are gonna be able to watch, but they can't speak, but we maybe have to do the warning.
Yeah, there's no public hearing, so all we have to do is file the agenda in a timely fashion.
Okay, we're sure we don't have to.
Meeting, Frank.
I just want to be sure because we got that problem last time and we did it all for
That
nothing.
was that.
Just putting it out there, just to be sure we don't, you know, where time is at a value here, right?
Right.
Yep.
We don't want to waste any of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
So,
All set,
so
Don?
we're all agreed we're going to meet on November 16th, 2020 at 6 p.m. for a special meeting.
Yep.
Perfect.
And Serapis will be serving Mexican dinner and drinks. They'll deliver to our houses, bill the town council.
All
Are
right.
we having it virtual
Nice.
or are we gonna be in the chamber?
We are not,
that
we
be
are
nice?
not
We are
going to
not.
be in the chambers for a while under the town council because we have public hearings.
But
You
this
guys
isn't,
gotta understand, our meetings don't work if we have to limit the public hearings. So
Right.
I want to be in the chambers more than any of you, but it doesn't work. Town attorney, town council, town manager, we cannot meet in the chambers yet because we can't allow 100% of the public to be at a public hearing. That's our problem. The town council can limit it. The Board of Ed can limit it. We can't. It's not a legal meeting if we do.
So
Yeah,
this one is
it-
not a public hearing though.
No,
This
it's
is a
not a
public-
public hearing.
It's a
But-
public meeting, but not a public hearing. All of our meetings are public meetings. At a public meeting, we might have a public hearing, at which point the public is able to speak, but they are not able to speak for any item that is not a public hearing.
So we're virtual.
We're
Yes.
virtual.
It's all virtual. I unfortunately get used to it because it's not going to change for a while.
And trust me, I fought the fight because
Yes, you
I
did.
want to be back in the chamber. So me and Lori have gone rounds and I went over her head and she is right. She's not wrong. And, you know, so we're just going to keep doing it this way. And to be honest, it's easier because we can't do half Zoom and half in public because it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So,
And then we have to hire a police officer to even be in the council chambers because they have to limit the number of people there. So it just.
right. And there's the
gets
key word
crazy.
is limiting people. The minute we limit people, we are not doing our job on planning and zoning. All right,
Right.
Don, are you all set?
I am. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. See you guys on the 16th.
You have a great night. Thank you.
Dude, thanks.
All right. Thanks, Don. Ciao.
Okay, next, correspondence. Is there any correspondence?
Not that I know of.
Okay, seeing none. Commissioners' correspondence. Seeing none. Town planner report.
I have
Seeing
my-
none.
I had my hand up for commissioner correspondence.
Oh,
One
okay.
thing. I
Carolina.
thought I was under the impression, or maybe I was mistaken, that we were going to be getting full packets delivered.
What didn't you get?
I didn't
Yeah,
get
you
all the
didn't get
drawings.
minutes.
I'm sorry?
You didn't
No,
get
the drawings.
minutes.
I didn't get the drawings and that were on
What drawing?
the master
There was-
packet. I didn't get that. I didn't get it
There was
delivered.
only like one drawing.
Right. I didn't,
What drawing didn't you get?
was probably the one that was pulled out. The housing, the
One
elderly
for-
housing.
That
That was withdrawn.
Oh,
Was
but it
withdrawn.
was
Okay, so
withdrawn.
it was withdrawn before the packet went out?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
my bad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, town planner report.
You just said that we were good.
Okay, I'm good with that. Administrative approval reports.
Okay, so 182902 is basically that is the Burlington Coat Factory, which you saw already, and
Mhm.
I think I don't know where my picture is. But basically, they're just adding an additional 425 square feet to the rear of the build out for that building for a utility room. And they actually switched the layout from having the truck stop to come in from the right to the left, or vice versa. I'm trying to see if I can find that plan. But it's very minor change, and it actually ends up being a better layout.
And that was per the fire department, correct?
That is correct. I'm not seeing it now.
It's in our packets. I saw it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna try to pull it up, but I'm.
Not in my packet.
It's in
Yeah.
there, Francis.
No, it's not.
Did you get a bunch of papers all paper clipped together or
Right here.
separate?
All paperclip together.
Right. It should be the second to the last one.
Look
Trianos
up
is the
top.
last one.
I have Trianos.
Right. It's right before
Yeah, I
Trianos.
didn't get it. That's all right. I seen it. I went online.
So
Looks like this.
basically, this is the addition. Oh, wait, I'm not sharing, am I?
No.
I
No.
can see this, but you can't. Hold on. I'm sorry. See, Jen's
Thank you,
better
Mr. Chair.
at this than me. Come on. Ah! Come on, get back up there. There we go. I need this. Share. Okay, now I can do it. Now can you see it?
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is the back. They have got this approved and this approved at the last time. And the new addition is going to go here. And instead of the truck access being over here, it's going to be over here. And that's it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, and you administratively approve that, right, Lori?
Yes, we will.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Nobody has issues with that?
No.
Can we allow for administrative approval of a site plan review 1829.02?
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. SPR 1840 application.
1840. I'm coming.
All right.
So this is their proposal right there. It's kind of complicated and busy, but what I did was create this graphic. So basically what they're adding within this existing area is a smaller tank right here and another smaller holding tank here. There's just new conduit here and just new machinery underneath the existing roof structure there. It's kind of like a little tent. That's it.
So they're really not adding any structures. They're adding 2 little tanks and then new equipment underneath.
Exactly.
They're upgrading their facility.
Correct.
Okay.
Questions?
Nope.
Nope.
So you're good with that one too? Did you already approve that one, Lori? I know we had talked about it.
Well, actually, I don't think I actually approved them yet.
Okay,
We'll
you want
send
us
out
to,
approvals tomorrow.
all right. A motion to approve,
Okay.
please?
So moved.
Second.
Administratively. Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. Applications to be received.
Yep, just the AAA, they're coming back with a brand new plan, which is way better than the last one. So I think you'll be happy.
Way better as in how?
Better layout, and they're actually going to be working on flood compensatory storage area. They're actually take out about an acre of pavement.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's not going to be as close to the intersection with the light. It's just overall, it's just a much better plan. But I
So
didn't
they
have
might
time to review it.
They might have realized they had a water issue there.
You think?
I wonder who brought that up at the meeting. Anyways.
So it's not a modification, it's a brand new,
You know, we
Application.
allowed them to come in kind of as a modification, but for all intents and purposes, it's a new application.
so are they losing their initial approval by doing this?
It will be replaced.
Okay. Opportunities and unresolved issues.
It's all yours, Ken.
There's nothing there yet. So if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
So moved.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Bye.
Everybody have a great night and thank you.
All right,
You.
thank you.
Night.
See you soon.
Night.
Bye-bye.